District, Tiffany Smiley. Welcome to the show, Tiffany. You don't have any questions about restaurants in Grapevine, do you?
I do not. I am born and raised in Washington State.
I love the callers and I love doing the show and stuff, but it's like, hey guys, it's a national radio show. I can't now if one of my local businesses wants to pay me dollars, I'm not allowed to do that. I don't think it's filling house. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Tiffany Smiley, you are running against Dan Newhouse, which is crazy because I've never heard of Dan Newhouse because he's done nothing in Congress, right?
No, you're correct. And in fact, I would like to plug the 4th Congressional District because we have the best wine in the country, and everyone in the United States should know about the Columbia Valley and our amazing wine that comes from the 4th District in Washington State. We are a district that is very red. We love this country. We need Donald Trump's policies, and our district knows that. Congressman Dan Newhouse has let us down. He's let us down on every front, and he doesn't represent who we are in the 4th Congressional District. Dan Newhouse voted to impeach Donald Trump and then was in support of invoking the 25th Amendment. So when I sat down and met with him, I had questions. I said, how in the world do you think you are going to work and legislate with Donald Trump? Like, you are rendering our district irrelevant. And we have real issues in the 4th District that will require executive branch intervention, from protecting our dams to getting the funding and finally completing our Columbia River project. So or Columbia Basin project, there's so much going on. And so when I met with him, I just said, this isn't about you. This isn't about me. This is about our country, and this is about the future of our children. So that is why our family is in this fight and standing up for all of the 4th Congressional District in Washington State.
It's crazy to me that anybody, and he's a Republican, right?
I mean,
claiming, yeah,
yeah, but it's he also in 2021 voted for amnesty for 3 million illegals. When we look at our border, look at what's happening in our country. We have an invasion. Those votes, his stance does not represent the 4th Congressional District in Washington State at all,
or the Republican Party. Listen, I don't even know where to go with this. We'll get into why you're running. Obviously, you're a good conservative and you want to replace him. But how does someone like that? And to explain, God, I'm all over the place here. I'm going to be all non sequitur and I'm falling all over myself because where you are in the country, Washington State, Oregon, California, beautiful places in these Republican areas. Absolutely, some of the most beautiful places in the country, in the world. And you have centralized cities that are crap holes that are run by Democrats that have a larger population and ruin the state for everyone else. So people should not take for granted that they live in these Republican areas that are clean and amazing and beautiful and wonderful. How in the hell does someone like Dan Newhouse get elected and then reelected?
No, you're exactly right. In the 4th District, that we should be leading for all of Washington State. There should be a strong infrastructure there, right? And running a strong campaign every 2 years. That's just not what is happening. So it's also caused it's a lack of leadership is really what it is. And it's caused a lot of division and confusion within our party, within, our county areas with people, and rightfully so, because people are confused. They're going, wait a minute, what's happening? He barely squeaked by his primary last cycle, barely. So, this is an opportunity, for me to step in. I wouldn't have gotten this race if I didn't know I could win. And that there was a real clear pathway to winning. The people in the 4th District are energized. They are ready to elect someone who, like you were saying, will absolutely represent and uphold everything that the 4th District stands for, and be that beacon of light for the Pacific Northwest. Be the beacon for Washington State that says, hey, our conservative values work, and we're leading from the front right here in the 4th District. That's what people are hungry for, and that's exactly what we need, and it's why we will win this race.
Yeah, man, I have so many questions for you. So in the first hour, I spent the entire first hour telling people um, that they need to get involved at a local level. That there are no more hills to die on. It's time to step up. If you don't like what's going on, it's one. Just don't just listen to conservative radio. Don't just sit back and think that everyone in Congress is some sort of like a mightier than thou type person or a holier than thou type person. Realize that you're the solution. What was it for you that said, "Hey, I got to get into politics"? Because it's not a fun thing.
No, it's not. But, for our family, we consider it service to our country. Our lives forever changed on April 6th of 2005 when I was working as a nurse and my husband was serving our country overseas and came face to face with a suicide car bomb. He was completely blinded by this bomb. We didn't even know if he was going to survive. He was in and out of a coma. I quit my job, resigned from my nursing job, took a one-way flight out to Walter Reed, gave up my career, dedicated my life to making sure that Scotty had hope and a future and that the American dream was still alive for him. And, it was a hard battle. It was my first experience at 23 years old with the inadequacies of government. And I took on the government. I fought for my husband. I was a voice when he didn't have one, and he made a miraculous recovery, went on and became the first blind active duty officer to ever serve our country. But I say that's when I first got involved in politics because I saw government dysfunction and I saw how it affects our heroes, those that sacrifice so much for this country. The reason we're free, the reason we have freedom of speech is because so many are willing to stand up and fight for this great country. And so I just, I would go to Capitol Hill and I would take meetings with anyone who would take a meeting with me. I knew, as a nurse, I knew I could help Scotty. But then I knew someday I had to come back and make it right. So I sort of saw behind the curtain at a young age, and I never wanted to get into politics. It's not my plan. It's not my dream.
Well, you're a sane person. You're a sane person. So yeah.
yeah. But then I saw just the status quo that prevails, and sort of the lack of leadership. Right, that it's just sort of easy to get in there and go along to get along. And we're facing real problems in our country that I believe will determine the future for our children. So status quo as usual is not going to take us into the future. When you look around, this country, I'm like, Donald Trump is going to be our nominee. He is leading in all of the polls. We absolutely desperately need his policies in this country. So, here we are. I'm like, we will always stand up and do what's right. That's what we teach our boys. And for me and Scotty, we want to know that we did everything we could do in this country to leave our three boys an America worth losing their eyesight for.
Yeah. By the way, really cool picture of your family at the bottom of your website. Of you guys jumping.
Oh, thank you.
Like it's actually like I know nothing about you coming into this, right? I have a couple of talking points, and I'm the fill-in for the fill-in host today, so I knew nothing, right? And so they give me a last-minute call, and they're like, whatever. And like I'm doing research on you, and I'm like, you look like a normal person who doesn't like. Why the hell would you want to be in politics? And like it's just hearing you say that, like it's powerful to hear that, and that's I need more people in your position. And again, yours is very unique, but who have had issues or don't like what's happening with the government and have kids to step up and be that person to run for the office. There need to be more of you.
Yes.
You seem like a really nice person. How long did it take dealing with the VA before you swore? 10 minutes? 5 minutes?
Right out of the chute, man. I was, at 23, I had power of attorney, and I was brought into a room with VA officials at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and they said, sign right here on the dotted line, and we'll begin your husband's medical retirement. And I said, wait a minute, what does this mean, and what does this look like? And I said, well, I'm not signing it because I don't agree with a lot of what you're offering or what the path you're taking. And they said, well, they'd never had someone tell them that before. And they said, your husband, is never going to see again, so sign it. And I told them a second time, no, I'm not signing it. I was able to build a coalition who sort of saw that bigger vision. And it drastically changed how the government viewed and treated catastrophically injured veterans and their families. But I think more importantly, there's just such a lack of understanding of how it affects the whole family. And the resources to care and the roadblocks are just so extreme, right? We had to fight so many fights, and you know exactly why we need Donald Trump is because he put veterans at the top of his list and made them a priority. Donald Trump also understood that it was a holistic, view of it. It's not just the veteran or the injured veteran; it's the whole family. It's the care structure. Like that's what's going to also help in their recovery and rehabilitation and ability to move on and, chase their American dream and be honored for their service. It was it was a lot of long, hard days, a lot of uphill battles. But looking back, I also think, in what other country can you take on the DOD? Can you take on the VA? Can you go to Washington, D.C.? What other country could you walk into, the White House or the equivalent of a White House and demand and ask for change? In what other country can a nurse and mom of three who's had this, their families had this incredible journey of service and sacrifice and pain step up and run for government? Like, we live in the greatest country in the world as long as we have the courage to stand up and fight for it. We need to cut the red tape in the VA. We need to cut the roadblocks, and we need to make sure that the VA is delivering for the customer. I was disappointed in seeing, I think it was like $11 million that were distributed. Some bonuses were given to, high up people in the VA. Again, the fraud, the waste, the abuse, we got to cut it. And we need to make sure that we're actually delivering for veterans and their families.
Yeah, listen. Are you getting a lot of support from DC in this race too?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of goodwill in DC. I also have a PAC, Endeavor PAC. I've been helping candidates all across the country because I'm focused on also winning the majority in this country. So I've been raising money for other candidates in the Senate and in the House. My good friend Tim Sheehy is running for Senate in Montana. Super excited about his race. We have Allison Esposito running in New York, George Logan in Connecticut. We have amazing candidates that we need to get into office. So I'm doing everything I can to help get Donald Trump elected and get these good candidates into office to win the majority in the Senate and the House.
Yeah, because just listening to you and then reading over your story and just a little bit, like, you're a normal human being. It's like, and then I don't mean that in any kind of knocking way. Like, you're someone who's doing this because you care about your community and your family, and you're just a real person who, you were a nurse. You had a real job. You're not one of these mega billionaires or whatever that decide they want to run for office, or somebody who's kind of been in the game for a long time that's running for office. I hope that, regardless the outcome, I think you win, by the way, but regardless the outcome, I hope that you continue to tell your story and encourage more and more people to run. That's the whole thing, because you just don't.
Absolutely.
You don't scream Washington, D.C. establishment to me, and you're not. And I think your role is so much more important than, I know, representing your community, number one, but I think you get a lot of people and a lot of folks involved in politics that wouldn't normally be involved in politics. So I really hope that you keep pushing this stuff.
Thank you. That's exactly what we need. I always just say I'm a farm girl from Pasco, Washington. I learned that tough, hard work and grit gets you far, and loving other people. We have a lot of work to do in this country. We really are at a crossroads, and this election is very, very important. And we need good people in office to start to turn this country around. I'm committed to doing that. Our family has too much skin in the game in this country just to sit back, like we were talking about, and let status quo prevail. So there is something we can do, and that's why we're live in the greatest country in the world. And we will continue to fight for it and do everything we can. And anyone can join me at TiffanySmileyForCongress.com, all spelled out, TiffanySmileyForCongress.com. Can jump in, chip in. I always say I am funded by the amazing people across this country. In less than a week, we raised over $200,000 for this congressional race, and we're just getting going. So this will take each and every one of us, but I have no doubt that we can lead from the front for Washington State and this country from the 4th Congressional District.
I got one more question for you here in the middle of your race. How insulting is it that you're in a beautiful part of the state of Washington to watch the state continue to vote blue when you have things like the CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, where there are literal domestic terrorists taking over blocks of property in Seattle, and nothing's being done about it. You know, when that kind of stuff happens, like how insulting is that?
It's awful. You know, I grew up going to Seattle for soccer tournaments, and it was so beautiful, and we love the city now. I don't even want to take my kids there. Like I was there not that long ago and turned a corner and there was someone, you know, like spinning a pistol on their finger, just walking down the street. And then the next time I got caught up in it was actually a police chase. The police cars came out. They, you know, so I was kind of just walking down the street, pulled out guns. They were running. It breaks my heart because that's not the America I know. And we have got to get leadership back. We need conviction for a better future for our children. And, you know, there are a lot of problems, but I also have hope. You know, our family's been in the depths of despair and total destruction where everyone thought, you know, maybe they won't make it. I know that our country, when backed into a corner, we always rise stronger. And so I look forward to helping, you know, make sure that we rise above in Washington State, that we elect good people into government. That is what we need, who will roll up their sleeves and do what's right, not do what's politically motivating to them. So, you know, it's heartbreaking, but then again, we have an opportunity in the 4th to lead for all of Washington State, and that's exactly what I will do. That same fight and grit that I, you know, took on the VA and DOD, that's exactly what I will do for all of Washington State.
And we need that. At Smiley for WA, that means Smiley for Washington, on X, and also Tiffany Smiley for Congress spelled out .com if you guys want to go support her. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Hope to be back.